failure, you fail your way forward, really. Life is all about failure. Anyone who's ever achieved anything, no matter who they are, has failed so many more times, but they just stayed in the game. Whatever you focus on grows, right? If you focus on bad things, you get bad things in your life. If you focus on what you want, you tend to move towards it. That's where your biggest payback is what you do for other people. It's not what, when you go to your grave, it's not, I wish I'd spent more time in the office and I wish I had another £100 in my bank account. It's really the experiences you've had with other humans in a good way.
It all started at a cold and wet Saturday morning market in the streets of London, where after 9 hours, he had sold only one T-shirt. Most people would have packed up and gone home with their head down, but my guest today looked at that one sale and thought, this is proof that the market exists. Now I just need to find more customers. That reframe is Rick Lowe's whole philosophy. From that rainy Saturday in 2003, he built a T-shirt apparel licensing business that now ships hundreds of thousands of units for Disney, Warner Brothers, the Rolling Stones, and dozens of other household names and the biggest brands in the world. Before that, he was a boring engineer, a corporate job that paid well but meant nothing to him. And he also took a one-way trip to Miami with only $300 in his pocket that little did he know would change everything. My guest today is none other than Rick Lowe of Brands Unlimited. He just turned 60. His first book is nearly done. And in this conversation, he gave me something I won't forget. Lessons about failure, about self-motivation, and about what legacy really looks like while you're still in the middle of building it. Enjoy. Rick, I appreciate your time today. I'm honestly super excited to chat about so many of the things you have going on. Tell me, what is the main brand that you're focused on building these days?
So my main business is called Brands Unlimited, and that's a licensing company where we take licenses from big entertainment property people or rights holders like Disney or Warner Brothers or a Netflix, a lot of music artists or music companies that deal with their artists. We take those rights and then we make clothing, merchandise, fashion items and accessories from with it. So the simplest thing is I'm wearing like a Mötley Crüe T-shirt. So that
Sure.
we license that from the band through their management, merchandise managers, and then we'd go out and make T-shirts, sell them into retail. Could be the same with Disney, Mickey Mouse. Could be the same with kids' pajamas, things like that.
Nice. Okay, cool. Noted. And then Maverick Mindsets podcast, of
Yeah.
course. Anything else specific that you want to make sure that we talk about today? I know you had mentioned a book upcoming.
Yeah, I've nearly completed my first book. Always something I wanted to do, Wayne. It's called The Maverick Entrepreneur, and it's really about my journey and the lessons I've learned. All the times I've failed, basically.
You also mentioned that failure is your motivational tool.
Well, I just think it's really it's good to talk to you, Wayne, because I think people like us are on the same level where every day we're presented with a battle, and every day there's a challenge that we have to face, and it doesn't really get easier. There's always something that comes along, and it's called life, and you've got to deal with it.
There's always something that comes along in his life. You just have to deal with it. I mean, just to roll right in, Rick, is that a mindset that you've always had, or where do you think you developed that outlook of being able to deal with failures and challenges in this way?
I think it starts, Wayne, with kind of what you think about and what you want to become. If you're very ambitious, let's say, if you have a curiosity to learn and develop as a person, not just in business, of course, then you've probably got a higher propensity to take risks. And with that, comes the understanding very quickly that it's not always going to go the way you want it to do. And that is the only way, in my view, it's the only way we grow as individuals is by getting yourself out of that comfort zone and trying things that you've not done before. And like anything, I was in the gym this morning. You train a muscle, it gets stronger. When you first start, it's hard, and then but here's the thing, right? You don't get it straight away. What nature doesn't do isn't say, "Well, here you go. It's the perfect physique or the perfect way to run up a mountain." You've got to go through those failures and learning stages to get there. However, that's the bit that actually gives you the satisfaction, and it also gives you the confidence in your own mind that you've been there and done it. I was 60 last month, and I think I finally realised, Wayne, that I am actually finite. I'm actually mortal. I'm not going to live forever. So what do I actually want to do? I want to spend my time doing things that nourish me, which mainly means talking to mentally nourish me, being around people I want to be around, and saying yes to the things that at my stage in life, the experience I've got tells me are good for me, and saying no to things that don't give me any real benefit, because there's only 24 hours in a day. And we said this when we had a brief chat, all these clever people around like Sam Altman and Elon Musk and God knows who, none of them have invented more than 24 hours in a day yet. So we're all got 24 hours in a day, and we've got to use it the best way.
Yeah, yeah. And such a powerful piece of using that 24 hours in the day, using it wisely, is knowing what to say no to, being willing to say no to more things.
Yeah.
It's absolutely vital. Rick, before we get too deep, for people that aren't familiar with who you are, give us just a quick 60 seconds on your background and what you're working on these days.
Yeah, so I had a normal, let's say, education, went off to university, did an engineering degree, which was hideously boring. And then I came over to America to seek my fortune for a couple of years, just generally odd jobbing and traveling around, having fun, actually. Went back to the UK, got into a technical role with a company in the City of London in the financial district, but didn't really enjoy it, Wayne. And long story short, someone gave me an opportunity to get into sales, corporate sales, and I worked my way up that business, but was never really fulfilled. Wanted to do something on my own, and I got made redundant, which some people say is the end of the world, but I often think, as that Chinese proverb says, as one door closes, another opens. Then I met a guy in a nightclub. He had an idea about selling Space Invaders T-shirts. I didn't have a clue about Space Invaders. I knew it was a video game, but never played it. Certainly didn't have a clue about making T-shirts. But we decided to set up a brand together, and we started selling on Portobello Market, which is in Notting Hill in London, on a very cold November morning. And it went from there, really. We with like a suitcase going up and down high streets, knocking on doors, trying to sell T-shirts to fashion or what were streetwear stores, like skateboarding stores, really. Went through all those ups and downs in the early stages, then met another guy who was very useful from the point of view of having a big manufacturing setup, and he said, look, let's throw in together, go get some big licenses. So we got Warner Brothers, then we got Disney, and got the music artists, and it kind of went from there, really. So it really did start from selling one T-shirt on a rainy Saturday morning on Portobello Market.
Wow. Yeah, all the way until having these huge licenses. And so then all the way up till today, right, you're primarily still running the same company, or what all are you working on today?
Yeah, so my main day job, if you like, is my business called Brands In, which takes those big licenses and makes product, merchandise and fashion apparel, with the logos, if you like. So if it's a Mickey Mouse or it would be a Rolling Stones for music, etc. I also have an avid interest, I always have done, Wayne, in personal development. So I've always had a yearning to do more in that area. So I enjoy public speaking. I've got a podcast that I'm developing called Maverick Mindsets, which really talks to interesting people who've done something in life that I and my listeners can learn from.
Yeah.
And then I'm writing my first book. It's nearly done, called The Maverick Entrepreneur. And that was really a cathartic thing, Wayne, something I wanted to set down on paper, see if I could do it. And it's a personal, let's say, journey through my life, and all the lessons I've learned, and really what I can pass on to people, and the things that have inspired me and the people that have inspired me, because you can't do anything on your own. You need other people around you.
How true it is. Rick, I'm excited. First off, I'm excited for you for your first book. I know it's been years in the making, and I'm excited for today. We'll dive through a handful of these stories, and there's going to be countless more in your book for everybody to go grab. But let's rewind it all the way back, right? So for people that aren't familiar to Journey to Legacy, right? We interview really impact-driven entrepreneurs that want to leave the world better than they found it. And I like to start back to where like their interest in business came from, their interest in entrepreneurship. And so you said that you started in a household that was very traditional education, a traditional path laid out for you. Thinking back, when did you realize that the traditional path wasn't the one for you? What did that look like?
Good question. I grew up in a fairly middle of the road, nondescript town in the east of the UK. So I didn't like grow up in London or some vibrant city. And I suppose it was looking around at what most people had, Wade, and thought, I just want more. I want to travel more. I want to do more. I don't think I was like a natural communicator or naturally assertive or overconfident. I don't think I was. I think that comes with time when you learn your trade. But I just had a yearning that, and it was interesting when I got in. So my father was a school teacher, and so was my mum. Actually, she taught handicapped kids. So I guess I was always had knowledge around me, the ability to learn and read, which I still do today. I read a lot. So that was the bit that gave me the foundation. But I wasn't from a business background. I mean, my dad wasn't some super entrepreneur or had a business he wanted to hand over to me. There's never any of that. So I had to go out and make my own way, really. And I think initially it was travel. I went off to America on my own or with a couple of mates to kind of work on building sites and boats in Miami and all kinds of stuff just to get away and do something different. And that was a big learning curve, leaving a small market town to going across the Atlantic and not having a job, not having really any money with me. There's no safety net. So I was very much diving, into the unknown, and then making my way that way. And I think I realized that if you are personable and you live by your word and you do what you say you're going to do and you show up on time and put a shift in, as it were, that people react positively and opportunities open. And and if you have a mindset which is, what's the worst thing that can happen? Mostly someone's going to say no, right? Yeah. So the more no's you go through, the sooner you get to a yes. So the idea in life is to get as many no's as you can. And that's something, I think we touched on before, Wayne, about failure. Yeah, you fail your way forward, really. You fail. That life is all about failure. Anyone who's ever achieved anything, no matter who they are, has failed so many more times. But they just stayed in the game, and that's all. That's all you need to do is stay in the game.
Yeah, so often, right? I hear that almost the last man standing wins, right? The last one to give up when you think about business wins because you're going to keep getting knocked down. And as long as you keep getting up, right, that's pretty much all it takes. Rick, so you said that the shift, like when you traveled abroad to Miami, right, had a huge impact.
Did it?
For
Yeah.
some people out there, right, just that concept of going to a different country without a job laid out for you, without family or friends there, is already terrifying, right? Like what motivated you to try that, to get out of your comfort zone? Because I'm hoping we can help show people how they can maybe get out of their comfort zones.
Yeah, I didn't have any real plan. I remember it was November in the UK, Wayne, so the weather was awful, right?
Yeah,
Rain
yeah.
and cold. And I always wanted to go to America because it seemed like the land of opportunity, and still is. You know, it's the epitome of the free world in many ways.
Mhm.
And Southern Florida was the only guaranteed hot place. So,
Oh,
and
nice.
there was a direct flight on Virgin way back in the day when Richard Branson had just started out, and they gave you like a ticket, as you know, a return ticket, but as long as you used the ticket within a year, you could move the date basically without any
Wow.
cost. And a couple of mates I was working with in a summer job. I told them what I was doing, and they said, "Oh, well, that's great. We'll come with you." So the three of us went out there. Really, we know just like a suitcase and a couple of
Yeah.
$100, if more, $300. And we started um, selling ice creams, and then we got a job on a building site, and then we met a guy who refurbished and looked after super yachts, and it all sounds very glamorous, but it was hard work.
Super.
And we just found a way through it. And looking back, was it a massive risk? What's the worst thing that could have happened? I would have got on the plane and come back. Basically, it. You know.
Mm.
So, but it those I call them formative experiences. A lot of the things I learned in that year and a half doing that, I still use today. You know, those skills. A lot of the skills I learned when I first started my business, and I was selling T-shirts out of a suitcase, samples. I still use those skills every day. You know,
Yeah,
they're just more polished, and probably you've got some more confidence around you. But it doesn't start.
absolutely.
No, no one gives you that unless you're very lucky, and then if you're very lucky, you probably lose it because you've not got the skills to hang on to it because you
Sure.
don't realize the value of it.
Absolutely. And so through the formative experiences, right? Through the businesses that you've ran, right? You've gained these skills that you still use today. What would you say are a few of the top skills that people should be developing to make a success in their personal and their professional life?
Think you've got to have the ability to have what they call EQ, which basically means to be able to understand other humans and get on with them and not necessarily agree with them, Wayne. Um, we are all wonderfully unique. There are no, you know, there's not another one of me, there's not another one of you out there. And we all think and learn and communicate in quite unique ways. And I think what I learned when I was doing telesales and cold calling is you've got to develop rapport with people, which leads to trust. And then I'm almost convinced most of my business now is based on trust. Is, you know, you could call it friendships. Trust over time and deep relationships become friendships. But the core thing for anybody is to learn how to work around and with other people. So the danger the younger society I see have got is if they're glued to their phones, where most of their social interactions come through a screen, they're never going to learn how difficult, but also engaging other people can be. So my advice is go work in a bar, go work in retail, something where you've got to talk to strangers and get some kind of quick relationship with them, to influence and shape a situation. And that's a core skill. If you can't communicate and develop rapport and trust, you probably won't get very far.
Communication, rapport, trust. It's absolutely vital, right? You mentioned EQ, which I think is for some reason it's the shorthand for emotional intelligence.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Understanding people. I explain to a lot of individuals that my first job out of university, I was a cold calling, cold sales person, right? Not just was I cold calling on the phone, I was cold canvassing in person, going business to business, not knowing who was inside of the door, trying to wheel and deal cell phone services, Rick. And I tell everyone it was the worst job I've ever had, but the one that I learned the very most in, that I would recommend to everybody. The
Yeah.
name of the game is building rapport and building trust quickly, right? Within 5 minutes, I'm asking for their social security number. I'm asking for their IDs from this total stranger that walked into their business. And so if you can learn how to build that rapport and trust quickly, I mean, it's a game changer, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. 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 And it's a core human skill, because your ability to influence or lead people is based on their ability to understand and connect with you. And if you've got ulterior motives, or you don't want what's best for somebody, it's very easy for a human being to pick that up. Through years of evolution, through centuries and thousands of years of evolution, the human psyche is able to decide if they trust somebody in a matter of seconds.
So if you don't have truly what's best for them in mind, like, you pick up on it so quickly. And so it's I think everybody can have the confidence in themselves, have it in human evolution, that if whatever you are motivated to sell, if it's a service or a product, an idea, as long as you can vouch for yourself that I have the best intentions, the person I'm speaking to, I truly believe this will help them, move forward with confidence. Absolutely. And so, Rick, after Miami, you chose to go back to the UK. What motivated that decision, and what was this like? Because I think you went back in 1991 when it wasn't a great time in the UK.
No, that's very true, actually. Yeah, look, I'd been to university, Wayne. I'd got myself an academic qualification in electronics, actually, electronic engineering. So the logic was I had to go and get a real job and have a real life, and go, become a graduate trainee with some corporate business, and try and climb up the chain, the ladder, and to success. Which I did. And I worked for a very good company, actually. It's very successful, the company was, but I wasn't very good as an engineer. It was very practical. It was very problem solving, which is great in your day job as an entrepreneur, because that's what you do. You solve problems every day. But this was more technical. And I remember sitting at my desk one day thinking, I really want to get into the commercial world. I saw a lot of people in sales, and they had company cars and all these trappings, and they earn more money and all this kind of stuff. I thought that's what I want to do. But I had no experience, and I applied for this job. And the recruitment guy said to me, look, you're applying for this job to sell technical test equipment. This was back in the day when all the new broadband networks were being used in the banking system, and now, all over the world, essentially, the infrastructure. He said, but you have no sales experience. And I said, well, I've done this in my life, I've done that. I just need someone to give me an opportunity. And fortunately enough, the company I went to interview for, the guy who I'm still friends with today, actually, to this day, he gave me the first opportunity to really go out there and fail. And what was interesting, Wayne, is he obviously saw something. Now, he could have said to me, you're target is $10 million a year or $100 million a year. It made no odds to me. I had no frame of reference for what I was about to do but all I knew, I had to pick the phone up and smile and dial at people and try and sell them stuff. And then that business went on to do well, and I did well with it, and I got out on the road, and then I started looking after big multinational accounts and this, that, and the other. But I was never fulfilled, as it were. I didn't want the CEO's job of a big company, flash car, smoking cigars on golf days. It was never what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then in that first downturn of the dot-com bust in the early 2000, I got the opportunity to be made redundant, really, kind of get some money to fend for myself for 6 months. And that's when I kind of thought, great, I struck out on my own. And I thought, no, now's the time. It's sink or swim. This is either going to be, I saw it as an opportunity, not the fact that I've lost my high-paid job. What am I going to do?
Wow. Let's pause there for a second. You said you got the opportunity to be made redundant, right? Which I want to touch on here. But also, Rick, you painted the picture just now of, for a lot of people, the dream, right? You were in a high-paying position, company that's doing super well, smoking cigars on the golf course, yet you still weren't fulfilled. What were you feeling? And let's paint this picture so that people might understand if they are feeling that right now as a sign that they're meant for more, maybe meant to make a pivot.
Yeah, I guess I had a burning desire to achieve something on my own terms. And I didn't have a magic formula or an opportunity to know what that was. And I think a lot of the reading I've done, I'm sure you've done, we can all do, about visualization and figuring out what you want to do with your life and what shape you want something in, and how much of this you want, how less of that you want. I've done a lot of work around the things that I wanted to move towards, be it financial reward, be it material possessions. Where did I want to live? What kind of life did I want to do? What was important to me? And so, but again, I didn't have a vehicle to take me there. But what happens in life, and we're all cognizant of it, is whatever you focus on grows, right? If you focus on bad things, you get bad things in your life. If you focus on what you want, you tend to move towards it. And this bizarre law of attraction that I've never understood how it works comes into play, and you attract the things towards you that may get you to where you want to go. And let me say, not necessarily in one step. It could be 2 or 3 things that get you there. And that comes back to the whole piece on failure. You have to be open to learn and make mistakes. But if you have a vision in your mind of the kind of person and life you want, a vehicle will eventually come along that can get you there. Because here's the thing, Wayne, I am not my business. My business gives me things that, not just financial reward, but it gives me a lot of other things that I really enjoy. But there is another business out there that could probably do the same. But the business is a vehicle to build in a life for me that I want, but also building the person I want to become.
Absolutely. It is truly just that vehicle. But Rick, I just want to reiterate what you said here around visualization, manifestation, right? The law of attraction. What you focus on grows and it attracts into your life. This is a tough concept for people to understand, right? Because it seems very wishy-washy or magical, but it sounds like it's a concept that you believe in.
Yeah, I think it starts with trying to find and understand where success lives, whatever success is in your world, whatever you want. And then working yourself into environments where that success operates. is it mixing with people that do things you want to do? Look, if that is taking drugs, then that's the circle you're going to mix in, and you're going to get the byproduct of what that is. A lot of fun and laughs for a while, but a load of other downsides. If you want to be healthy, you generally mix with people who go to the gym or eat healthy, or So I think it's about for anybody thinking, well, it's all right for Rick or whoever or Wayne, look at what they've done and achieved. I always think you've just got to have the antennae on your head working to move towards people that are doing what you want to do. If you want to be a doctor, you go and talk to doctors. You don't go and talk to a car mechanic.
No.
And they might say, do you know what? You are actually a nice person. Come and temp with me for a bit. And you might go and do a really boring job with them, but you learn about it. And they might say, there's an opportunity coming up, but it's in Massachusetts. You might not want to do it, but it's an opportunity in the area that you want to move towards. And they're the things that life throws up. But the common two things is try and work out what it is you want to do with your life, what's important to you, what's important to you in your life in long term. Think about it. Don't just think about it in 5 minutes. Spend some time to try and, they say it takes 24 hours of solid time to set your life goals. So you and I could probably write things down that we want in 10 minutes, right? Maybe we've got a bit more experience in it. But if you really want to dig deep and figure out what's important to you, it will take you about 24 hours start to stop, coming back, reworking it, scratching it out in your notebook, writing some other stuff down. And I think in life, it's about once you've decided the kind of direction you want to go in and what's important to you, it's about hanging around or finding those pockets of people or orbits and getting into the orbit of people that are doing what you want to do. And that's the starting point.
That's the starting point, right? Getting into the orbits of the people that are already doing what you want to do, or into the environments and the areas. And Rick, I'm so happy you said that, right? Because in this idea of manifestation and visualization, right? I do think that there is a greater power that is difficult for us to explain. But the tangible piece of the puzzle here, right? You use if you want to become a doctor, you go speak to doctors, right? Whatever you're focusing on, whatever you're visualizing, it's now more top of mind. And now you are subconsciously looking for those opportunities, listening for them. And now you're taking these small micro actions that will lead you to that path. And so then, a few years down the line, when you think, wow, man, that visualization thing is really magic. It's actually because you just were opening yourself up to the opportunity. You were listening for it, looking for it without even realizing it.
Yeah. I think the term that I read years ago, Wayne, was sensory acuity. So your senses are tuned in to moving or detecting what you in your mind have figured out you want to do, and it does work over time. It really does. And it's not about getting into this kind of Zen mode where you've got a perfect life and, humming to yourself, sitting on a towel facing the sun. You can do that. It's and there's an element of being able to close all the noise down in your mind and really think about it. But you do have to have like it's like everything. You've got to go through the motions of making an effort to really think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick, take us through your first motions, your first efforts of launching into entrepreneurship on that rainy day in the Portobello Market in 2003. Right? How did you start? What did it feel like? I'm guessing you weren't sure if that was the correct path that you were walking either.
No. I mean, look, the fundamental of that first day, Wade, was we managed to sell one T-shirt.
Wow.
Now, you might think, you've stood there for 9 hours on a cold Saturday in London very busy market, Portobello, very trendy. A lot of Americans and people, tourists coming to London, always go there. So it's packed. Now, some might say, oh, look, you've only sold one T-shirt, so you've failed. But I thought, I've sold one T-shirt. Now I need to find how I sell 2 and 10 and 100. And if I fast forward to today, we're shipping, thousands, if not millions a year. So it all starts with like one step. And to me, it gave me the belief that there's someone out there that would buy one. All I had to do was go and find more people. And what was the better way? I'll go and talk to people that had stores so they could stock it, and then there'd be more people. So it's the proliferation from one step. But was it daunting? Difficult to remember. It was a long time ago now. But I think you just roll your sleeves up and enjoy the moment. That sounds very cliche, right? Because it was cold and wet, but it's a buzz when you do it. Look, if you're doing something for yourself, you know that you've not really got to answer to anybody apart from yourself. You've not got a boss who's clocking you in or clocking you out if you worked in a factory or whatever. You've got the freedom to walk away at any point, and the power of knowing that actually keeps you in the game.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. The power of knowing that you're the only one that's accountable. And you could leave at any time, right? You could give up, but then you actually choose to stay in the game. And like, what a great way to look at that success of selling a single shirt, right? It was like, well, I've just seen that the market is there. Now I just need to find more people. And fast forward to today, where you all are shipping hundreds of thousands of shirts for some of the biggest brands in the entire world, starting with just selling that one T-shirt. Rick, something you talk about is that failure is your motivational tool. Right? I'm curious where that mindset came from, and maybe is there one or a couple failures that distinctively sit with you, that maybe threatened everything you were doing, but then like how did it turn you around to where you are today?
Life is full of failure. You don't get what you want. And also, if sometimes if you think it's what you want, you very quickly realize it isn't. The nature of running a business is challenging. You fail your way, but there's 2 things that will get you ahead that you'd absolutely need. One is some form of finance and management of finance, because we do live in a capitalist society. And the other is people. And I've kind of failed in both areas. I've hired some what I thought were brilliant people who were not great, nothing personal, but they just didn't work. It never worked out. They weren't right for the business, etc. I've hired great people that I wasn't 100% sure of, who've gone on to be superstars. And then with the finance side, it's always a battle of cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out. As you grow a business, that's a whole different. Starting a business is one thing. I've done a lot of talks to people that want to start a business and become an entrepreneur. The skills you need to start a business, there's a handful of them. To scale a business, you've then got to start looking at yourself. How are you the inhibitor? Are you the accelerator? What do you need to do to drive that business forward? And I think, in time, I will write another book on scaling a business, because I think you have to go through another development cycle yourself to be able to really scale. So failure is always around you. People and finance are 2 key areas that hover about all the time that you've got to keep on top of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rick, a question that I'm just seeing in my notes, I think it's a good thing to touch on before we start to wrap up, is people don't know where to start, what they should be doing, what businesses to chase. And so this question essentially is, how do you create, grab? How do you seize opportunity? How do you find it? How do you know which opportunities to grab and to seize?
if you spend the time to understand what's important to you, if it's someone who says, I want to go and start a business, but I don't know what to do,
Mm.
what is it you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy people? Do you, because if you didn't, then maybe you're not going to be great at certain aspects of a business. Maybe you want to go and become a techie or a coder or whatever it is, where you don't have to talk to people. There's businesses there. Do you want to live in a city? Do you love the countryside? What is it you like? What kind of environment ticks the boxes to give you the life you want? Because again, the business is a vehicle. Um, and what inspires you? Is it medicine? Is it creating art? Is it building houses? What are the elements that you are drawn towards that motivate you? And that to me is the starting point. Because interestingly, when I came out of corporate life, Wayne, I knew what I enjoyed about it, and I knew what I didn't enjoy about it. I enjoyed the travel. I enjoyed the commercial selling, if you like, building. I didn't enjoy detail, and I didn't enjoy admin. Right? No one does, unless there's something seriously wrong with you, right? But maybe there are people out there. But so when I looked at business opportunities and going back to that, how I got started selling T-shirts, I knew it was it was more creative. It was to do with fashion and brands. It would involve travel if I was able to develop it. I was able to work with women as well, because I'd only really worked with men in a very techy, male dominated environment, and there's a 50% of the world's population I wasn't working with. So I wanted to extend in all those areas, and I realized that I needed an opportunity, a vehicle in business that was going to give me that, not straight away and not maybe in the order I wanted it, but at least I'd gone through the motions in my mind to do that. And of course, the underlying thing for me is I wanted to continue to learn and grow. I didn't really want to be pigeonholed. So
Nice.
that's all I could do. The skills we learn in life, or life skills, certainly in business as well, are very transportable. And you can take those learnings and drop them into another endeavor and still be successful. There's loads of sports people, stars, who've been very successful in business, because some of the disciplines, or many that you have in sport, getting to the top, are exactly the same as you've got in business, and so on and so forth. So they're the things that I think are kind of turning points in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely right. So like the way to see opportunity, the way to seize opportunity is first work to get clear on what do you want, right? So you can understand the direction that you want to go, right? As you state, right? You wanted an opportunity for travel. You wanted an opportunity to work with exciting brands, to work with women at the time when you come from an industry of engineering that was male driven, and then the vehicle and the opportunity that presented itself was through selling T-shirts. And you're only
Mm,
able to seize that opportunity because you had become clear on more of the things that you wanted.
yeah, I think so. And also, I think the challenge we all face as humans, Wayne, is we look at other people and we compare ourselves.
Mm.
Probably more now with what's going on social media. It's very hard for the younger generations because everyone's got this perfect life. Um, and the reality is, they don't. No one has a perfect life, no matter who you
No.
are. Yeah, I would always advise anybody to try and have the courage to be yourself and work out what's important to you, and looking what other people have and their lifestyle may not be what you actually want, and if you have the courage and um, inner drive to really go after what you want within reason, you've got to learn, you've got to make mistakes, you've got to develop and change, but that's life, that's what you want to do. But for those out there who are thinking, and the listeners who think, well, great, I still can't quite decide what I want to be, but all these other people have this wonderful life. Actually, spend the time to focus on yourself. And the only person you really compete with in the life is yourself. Don't
Yeah.
compete with anybody else.
No, so true. I love how you just said that also. Have the courage to be yourself. Have the courage to be yourself. Rick, I'm curious, just for fun, thinking back on different stories, right? You've worked with huge brands, right? I mean, you're wearing a Mötley Crüe t-shirt. You mentioned Disney earlier. Is there a partnership or a brand that you've gotten to work with that was like particularly exciting for you? And like, how did that develop?
I think they're all exciting in different ways because of the nature of what they do. They're entertainment brands.
Yeah.
Um, they have a set of consumers who are fanatical about what they do, be it music or movies, etc. I think for me, because I've got a passion in rock music, it's great to kind of look at some of this old artwork that some of now these aging rock bands have developed, and also they're still relevant and they're still out there, many of them on tour, and they're still reaching consumers. They've not decided to pack up, and they've still got a thirst to create and develop. And I think that's the all-encompassing dynamic, I think, of what I do. You know, Disney will come out with another movie that will be brilliant in ways they've not done before, but the core foundation of Disney is Mickey Mouse. It's iconic, right? So when you're dealing with icons, there's a lot to learn. What makes them an icon? You know, it's that ability to reinvent and still relate and communicate to your fan base, but also find a new fan base, find new consumers.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Rick, I appreciate your time today, like so greatly. And what's the theme of the show being around legacy? I always like to ask people this question, and you're particularly interesting, having such a diverse career and exciting, and in finance being, I mean, huge business, but of course you talk a lot about personal development also, and like passion, speaking. So when it comes to the theme of legacy, in your mind, what does legacy even mean? And is there a legacy that you're working to leave on this world?
I think the legacy is that people will not remember what you say. They will remember some of what you do, but they will definitely remember how you make them feel. And all the biggest impacts we've all had as human beings have been in the emotional connection of one way or the other, and it's about feeling. So it's terms of a legacy. I've got two little kids now, Wayne, and obviously you've got close legacy, which is your family, your nearest and dearest. And I'm very conscious of how they're learning and developing as little mini human beings. But fundamentally, is you just want to be an honourable person, don't you? You want to go to your grave thinking, do you know what? I was given this set of tools or cards, and I've made it better. Along the way, I've helped people, and hopefully people have learned from what I've done and they can take it forward. I think that's all we can really hope for. As much as there's people that do, a very small handful of people that do single-handedly change the world for better, hopefully in many ways. There are a handful that have come through the generations. Most of us are one in 6 billion people now, 7 billion people. We're all functioning dysfunctionals. Now, not one of us are truly functional. We're a human being, right? We're not a robot. We are emotional. And I think you've got to do the best with what you've got and try. And look, I hate to use that kind of phrase, be the best version of myself we're going to ever be, but you've got to try and improve yourself and along the way give back to other people. That's where your biggest payback is what you do for other people. It's not when you go to your grave, it's not, I wish I'd spent more time in the office and I wish I had another £100 in my bank account. It's really the experiences you've had with other humans in a good way.
Yeah. It's true, right? Whatever way it might come across to people, but it's truly be the best version of yourself. Rick, you said it earlier, right? Have the courage to be yourself, and along the way, help everybody else around you.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Rick, my friend, greatly appreciate your time again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Wayne. Really enjoyed it.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Rick left me with one line that I really haven't been able to stop thinking about. He said, "People will not remember what you say. They will remember some of what you do, but they will definitely remember how you made them feel." Let that be your North Star in how you act and treat people every single day. That rainy Saturday at Portobello Market that Rick told us about. 9 hours in the rain, only one sale, and a man who decided that that was enough to keep going. Not because he was naive, but because he understood something most of us miss. The only scorecard that matters is the one you set for yourself. Rick just turned 60. He has 2 young kids and a first book nearly ready to share with the world. But his legacy isn't waiting for any of that to land. It's being built right now in every conversation, every decision, and in how he makes the people around him feel when he shows up as his true, authentic self. You can learn more about Rick and everything he's up to at ricklowe.co.uk. It's in the notes below. His book is nearly done, and you can get on the waiting list for that now. And if today's conversation left you with any takeaways, please leave us a quick review because it helps us to get this message and show in front of more people who need to hear it. We'll see you next week on Journey to Legacy.